food, sex, and death.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Food, Sex, and Death, recording live here from the French Quarter, New Orleans, Louisiana. As always, I am your co-host, Colin Bohannon, alongside Lefty Lucy.
Hey, y'all.
The Pooch.
Yeah!
And today, instead of dirtbag Michael Polino, we have a very special guest, bar manager extraordinaire, former chef, and all-around super dope person, Tara. Welcome, Tara.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, it was a unanimous choice. You were our first choice, and we're all super stoked to have you here. Fun fact about the old teabag here, Tara is also Lefty's roommate.
It's true. I was totally biased on getting her on the episode thing.
Yeah.
But she's also a super valuable contributor to the episode.
Well, we'll fucking see about that shit, all right?
Well,
no.
All right, so here's the thing about Tara. Like, we talk about sex and death a lot, and while she can certainly talk about those things, she also can actually talk about food.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about this before. You were saying about how you guys have like a mildly sustainable food garden situation going on, and she's the architect behind that, right?
Yeah, working on it. You want to talk about some of your latest magic, Tara?
Yeah, absolutely. My first and foremost gardening passion is herbs. So we have a beautiful little herb garden that we just keep little clippers by. So whenever we need to spice up a dish, we can go outside.
Or infuse some tea with some lovely lavender mints.
We got some two different kinds of mint. We got some basil and oregano and strawberries and
Lemon verbena.
yes, lemon verbena as well.
Cilantro is by far my favorite herb. And I know a lot of people do the soap thing where it's like, you know, you're missing out on life. Because cilantro tastes like soap. People have it's like a thing.
It's a genetic thing.
Yeah.
So you're either born with the taste for it or the distaste for it. So
yeah.
And it's really hard to grow too.
Is it really?
Yeah, it flowers really easily, and once a herb flowers, it doesn't taste as good.
One thing I learned, speaking of herbs and flowering, because I know nothing about gardens, I like them, but I can kill a cactus. I've done it before. Horrible with plants. Did you know that fruits are flowers before they're fruits? So, like, when you're growing a fruit, first a beautiful flower develops on the tree, and then all of a sudden, like, one day there's a thing you can eat there instead. It's so divine. We're growing cherry tomatoes. A friend of ours gifted us a cherry tomato because it was dying, and Tara has not only brought it back to life, but, like, cloned it.
Yes. Taken some branches off the cherry tomato tree and replanted them, and we have 3 successful little cherry tomato plants growing. We have a pretty successful little jalapeno hybrid little tree growing. They're called La Bambas, and they turn red when they're ready, and they're La Bamba. And they're kind of spicy, kind of sweet.
Every farmer I know, or somebody that has a garden, like they all have their little secret things that they do, you know? You got any stuff, like you talk to them or play them Led Zeppelin, or
We definitely
talked to them.
We talked to them. We hung out with the Dragonfly today, you guys.
It's
straight up. Like we like the hibiscus had bloomed, and this beautiful green dragonfly flew through the garden. I was like, "Hey, dragonfly, how's it going?" And it like sat down on a bench, and I was like, "Oh, cool! It's like it's hanging out with us." And I was like, "Hey, dragonfly, you can sit on this chair if you want." And it flew over to the chair and sat on the chair, and I was like, whoa. And then I was like, oh, do you want to hang out with us? And then it like flew closer to where we were and was just like chilling with us while we were looking at the garden. I took like a bunch of pictures. I'll show you guys later.
So you're like what? Like Lefty Doolittle?
Insects are actually really easy to communicate with if you just like focus. Like we have lots of wasps, but like wasps, if you're just like, hey man, don't fuck with me, they'll like go in the other direction.
Okay, and we literally right before we started recording, I was like, hey, I'm not going to talk about this, but you brought up a dragonfly. So, like, last Sunday, I accidentally ate acid for the first time.
We're leaving that in.
There's a train.
The train was like, what now?
That's the universe judging you.
Yeah, well, fucking... Or
celebrating him.
Applauding me,
yeah,
whatever.
That sounded very celebratory. It's New Orleans.
So yeah, I didn't know that there was acid happening, and whatever. Anyway, so like half an hour later, I am tripping my balls off, and it was accidentally, and I was like, what the fuck? And the dude was like, oh shit, yeah, no, there was a lot of acid in that, and I was like, I'll try anything, but no heroin, no acid. You know what I mean? And that's like,
No acid.
because whatever, I've eaten mushrooms a bunch of times. I like that shit. But I've also seen a bunch of my buddies have horrific acid trips. And I'm like, I am not mentally and or emotionally stable enough to fucking deal with that shit. Like, I can't go through a fucking 14-hour bad trip. Like, I wake up to a bad trip generally, and I'm just like, you know, so like I don't need something to fucking intensify that. There was a dead, fully intact dragonfly on this table, and I sat there and stared at it for somewhere between 11 minutes and 4 hours. I have no idea, but it was like green and purple and whatever. And I started like poking it, and like it was like a bobblehead doll. The head was just like fucking flopping around. And I was sitting behind this bar called MRB, where Lefty runs a show on Monday nights.
Burlesque Bingo, it's free every Mondays, folks. Come on down.
There it is. Shameless self-promotion, which really is the only reason that we're fucking doing this shit anyway.
You should have been here last week.
So the owner of the bar came out, who I know is a buddy of mine, and he comes up and he's like, "Hey, Colin, you're tripping your balls off right now, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, it was an accident. I've never done acid." And he was like, "Dude, no fucking worries. I've done more acid than I can ever even remember. You're safe. You're here. Listen, dude, I saw that dragonfly earlier. That shit is fucked up, right? You need to fucking you need to keep looking at that shit." And I was like, "I know, dude, right?" He's like,
is a good friend.
He was like, "Dude, get back to that shit. I'm going to go get you a bottle of water." Yeah, he was like, "Hey, man, you're safe. You're doing a great fucking job, but you need to check out that dragonfly, dude, because I was looking at it earlier, and that shit was fucked up, man. Listen, I'm going to go get you a bottle of water, and then when I come back, you got to tell me about this dragonfly." And I was like, "Oh my God, I've already got so much shit to say. I got this." And he came back and he was like, "Hey, man, here's your water." And I was like, "Let me tell you all the things." And he was like, "Dude, I'm behind the bar right now, but dude, seriously, like write them down or whatever you need to do. I'm going to come back. Like, I want to hear what you have to say." And I was like, "Holy shit. Awesome." It wasn't until like the next day. And I was just like, where I realized I was like, what a good pal. You know what I mean? Like,
If you're going to do acid, that's the way to do it.
yeah. And then Polino showed up, dressed like a cowboy. Like he had like skin tight jeans and cowboy boots.
So like he always.
A giant belt buckle and like a fucking plaid shirt.
Unbuttoned to his nipples.
Yeah, about that. And then all of a sudden just went into roast mode and just fucking wrote down this fucking laundry list of shit. And then there was like, so I went inside once he had like counted his drawer and all this stuff, and I was like, "I got something to say," and like stood up on the platform under the bar and was like, "Polino," and just started roasting the shit out of him. And all of a sudden, like this fucking crowd started gathering and they're like laughing, and he's like, "Motherfucker." And then I smoked a bunch of weed and woke up 20 hours later. Because turns out acid drains everything out of your
Sounds like
body.
a totally solid trip.
It
Sounds
was.
like, yeah.
Except it was like a surprise.
Inadvertent, yeah.
Yeah. There were a couple times when I was freaking out, which I actually called you, Lefty, and you were like, "What? I'm in show mode," blah, blah. And I was just like, "Okay, I gotta go. Goodbye." And you were like texting me like, "Are you okay? What's going on?" And I was like, "I'm okay." Like, I just didn't want anybody to be mad at me. And then I called you, Tara, because, I know that you have dabbled in the...
acidic arts.
Yes. And then you just text me back a bunch of question marks. And I was just like, I can't even get into what is happening right now. And I only remember that because I texted you when you were on your way here and saw... your response, you're like, yeah, from like last weekend.
So when me left, well, was that when we had decided that Colin had friend booty called us?
Oh, that was a different time. No, that was when. So a lot of times when you contact one or the other of us, we are together. So like when you called me and I was like in show mode, when I got off the phone, I was like, "Hey Tara, I think Colin needs a friend." And then you texted her, so that's why she texted back question marks, and then she didn't hear back from you. And we were both like, "What's going on?" And I had to go to my show, and I think you had an event that night.
Yeah.
Tara, you started as a chef, and then now you are you're a bar manager of some acclaim, as the USA Today would tell people.
Just recently got a drink that I made into USA Today. It's watermelon and aloe liquor and cucumber simple syrup and some gin. So it's pretty exciting. But yeah, so I've always loved cooking and I've always loved handling ingredients and putting things together in creative ways. And so going to culinary school, I kind of figured that was the best way to kind of follow that passion. And once I realized what being back of house was like and the lack of opportunities I would get essentially being a female, I decided to jump ship and go to front of house and use the skills and translate them to doing more front of house and particularly bar things, which essentially is kind of using the same kind of creativity, definitely the same sort of like ingredient and knowledge of putting things together.
But like more specifically, like the mentality of the back of the house versus the mentality of front of the house is in my experience is so wildly different, especially like. And like people seek out one or the other. I feel like, like, or at least you're like kind of drawn to one or the other. Like for me, for example, like I fucking, tell dick jokes in dive bars, right? So like being in front of people and talking is, one of the 3 skills I have, right? And Pooch, you're a musician, you're on stage, Lefty, you're the same, you're a performer on stage all the time. So it's like you're drawn to the front of the house part of things,
talking
but
to people,
like
it's easy.
So like but like and there's a different mentality of like front of the house versus back of the house people. You know what I mean? And so like you kill it in the front of the house, but it's very, in my experience, like very few people are able to make that transition one way or the other.
Well, I think it's interesting that Tara specifically mentioned that she realized that being a woman, specifically back of house, there weren't going to be so many opportunities for her. And
Absolutely.
Like, I think a lot of that stuff's become exposed over the last year, in kitchens in particular. But like when you're making life choices, you're like, well, I guess I'm going to just not do that because why fight my whole life?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true. And like, I think like growing up, the jobs I always had were like front of house. I was like a waitress in a pizza place and, answered phones and folded pizza boxes and things like that. And I think going to culinary school, I had, the passion for cooking, but, maybe not necessarily the right mentality, as you say, and therefore why I transitioned to front of house.
I did it for selfish reasons. I mean, I stayed in the front of house because I lost my virginity to a hostess in a sushi restaurant, like.
I was going to ask if anyone had sex in the kitchen stories.
We did not have sex in the kitchen. We had sex outside the kitchen, but we met. I hit on. I used to love hitting on waitresses or hostesses and dating hostesses. It was awesome. I was like, you want to be down there sweaty with the dudes screaming at each other?
It's kind
so
of a
intense
fetish.
and like, ugh. Like, no, I'm going to be up here.
Sex outside the kitchen?
I had sex in the walk-in once.
Oh, that sounds cold.
Yeah, it was pretty cold, but it definitely was like the safest bet because, it was like one door coming in, so you can like kind of keep the door closed if somebody is trying to get in and pull up your pants real quick. So highly recommend the walk-in if you can take the cold.
I've fucked in the walk-in before, but the employee bathroom, if there is one, is really just the way to go.
That seems really obvious when two people come out, though.
I've had the
If there's
fortune
more
of
than one
working
stall, I
at
guess
bars
it
with
makes-
like band rooms that close at a certain time, and that's perfect for a barback or bartender. That's whatever.
Yep.
As long as there aren't cameras.
No, and even if there are, whatever. Like, there's only your boss is gonna see it, I guess.
But like
Only the person who decides whether or not you get fired.
It's a bar, Everything was stocked.
There's no
I was
money
using
missing.
protection, No, It was clean.
We
And
didn't
by
use the
using
bottles for
and by
anything.
using protection, he means his barback was watching the bar at the time. It's like, so it was protected.
I was a bar back then, and that's why I let.
was disinfected with vodka.
You don't ever let your barbacks. I've let 2 barbacks do that, and they're like, because they'll be making out with some regular or whatever. At some point, I'll be like, well, you can just take her upstairs. I don't give a shit. Do whatever you want to do. And they totally do. And then when they come back down, I'll be like, and I'm going to tell everyone in the fucking world and fuck with you about this for the rest of your fucking life. And I tease them for years after, which is great. And that's what happened to me. That's a barback's duty. It's like his, how like Aborigines have like a spiritual quest that they go on where they take psychedelic drugs and go out into the bush and do the whole spirit. It's like that for barbacks, you know what I mean, in New Orleans.
It's like, all right, you need to go get hammered and do blow off some wasted chick's tits upstairs. And then you come back and you're a man? Is that kind of what you're saying? Like,
me telling every customer that comes in that my barback just bangs some weirdo upstairs is the fun part about it,
So here's
a
a
story.
And then when
Go
he
ahead.
becomes a
He's
bartender,
really making all of you more money because you're tipping him out anyway. So you tell the stories, you get bigger
Yeah.
tips, everyone wins.
I was a bouncer at a New Year's Eve party, and it was really easy to be this bouncer because it was a bunch of comedians. So like, they came and got me. They were really scared in the middle of my shift. They're like, "Can you get rid of this woman, please? She's fucking scaring the shit out of us." And like, I went in this back room, and this girl was just sitting on the couch, and I just put my arm around her. I'm like, "You ready for me to put you in a cab?" And she's like, "Yes," and just walked out with me. And I put her in a cab, and that was it. So they gave me a bottle of champagne, which I drank alone. And then my girlfriend met me there, and we kind of like lost ourselves in the basement. We ended up having sex in a McDonald's like storage room. So
What?
How?
it was like a. It was,
Did you know someone who worked there?
Yeah.
No, it was like a store. Like there was a McDonald's upstairs from it, but it was a storage room in the basement, and the comedy weird party was in a basement of a place. Anyhow, it was weird because I was really drunk, and then I had an orgasm, but I was like looking at like Grimace when I opened my eyes from it, and it was fucking just. It was very surreal and fucked up.
You're like, now do I
Every
can I
time I get
only
a Happy
come
Meal
to
now.
purple?
Yeah, well,
I imagine that would lead to lots
Purple's
of...
a royal color,
of, This never happens to me.
Purple is the royal color,
And
yes.
it looked so soft. Better him than the Hamburglar, right? That guy's creepy. He's shifty.
He is. He's a burglar. It's right in the name.
And everybody else is just eating this shit for free. You don't have to steal it, dude. Just have a seat.
All
Take
of
off
these-
the weird bandana eyepiece and.
Do you remember the
hat.
Hamburglar had like a girlfriend?
No.
Yes.
Yeah, he
I
did.
do
I don't
remember.
remember her name though.
I don't remember her name.
Either. Thank goodness for the internet.
Was it olive oil?
No, that's Papa.
I know.
It would be like saturated fat.
Her name was actually trans fat, and they were long ahead of their time.
Oh, that's so good.
I had a birthday party at McDonald's once when I was.
Did Ronald McDonald come?
Because he's cheap. You can rent him cheap, and for some reason, my parents thought this was a good idea.
Oh my God.
He scared the shit out of me. Like he fucking.
Okay, he's a
just,
clown.
Was there a play
I'm not
place?
scared of clowns. I'm scared of the dude that has to pretend to be Ronald McDonald. Normal clowns don't frighten me at all. That's fine. Like, and, I have a friend that makes clown porn on Instagram. I'm not afraid of fucking clowns at all. But Ronald McDonald was a scary motherfucker, and I still think he's scary. Like the yellow
Tara Barrett.
jumpsuit.
You got a lot of fetishes. Is are clowns one of them?
Clowns are not one of them. Well, not yet.
As far as I know.
haven't.
time.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't really walked down that path, but
I think many fetishes come with the
Well,
appropriate
Harley
partner.
Quinn's she's a clown, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd hit that.
Yeah.
Without even a thought.
She's a
clown. The Joker's girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a clown?
Well, she starts as a doctor, but psychiatrist, but...
Fun fact about the word psychiatrist, starts with a P. You have a pretty fucking popular Instagram that...
Yeah, I don't, that's fine. So my Instagram is at DDLG for Dummies. I have about, I think like 68,000 followers right now. And it's it's a kink Instagram, and what DDLG stands for is Daddy Dom Little Girl, which is a sub branch of BDSM and the dynamic power play of a dominant and a submissive role in that way. So,
are you a switch? Like you're down for both? Or are you like strictly?
I up until the current relationship that I'm in, I was 100% submissive, but the most current relationship I'm in, he likes to be dominated, so I've been dabbling in that, and it's been pretty fun, and
Cool.
I'm enjoying it.
Cool. Like solely?
No, we
Or it's
switch.
like-
We both switch back and forth, and that is definitely fun because you can get tired, and then the other person can take over, and then you get tired, and then the other person takes over.
That's like
and
equal parts sweet and hot.
It is, and then and it's always like super sexy if you have somebody tied up, and then they like break out of the thing that they're tied up, and then start fucking you real hard because then then.
Yeah. Sounds good.
It's
Into
great.
it.
It's great.
So here's the thing, right? Like I'm like very much like, hey, whatever, fucking I'm down to try whatever the fuck you wanna give a shot to. Like, if I like it, cool. If not, then whatever, right? But like I was dating this girl probably at this point, probably like 7-8 years ago in Chicago, and she was into like choky, slappy, whatever, all super fun stuff, But then like one night we were like super fucking hammered, and she was like, "Punch me in the face," and I was like, "Absolutely not," and she was like, "Fucking punch me in the face," and I was like, "Not doing that." And then she was like, "What are you, fucking pussy?" And then she punched me in the face real hard with like fucking 3 rings on and busted my mouth open. Busted my mouth open like she hit it and it busted my mouth open so bad. It was like I was like pouring blood onto her like neck and boobs, right?
Oh no.
And she was like, "Now what the fuck are you gonna do?" And I was like, "I'm gonna put my clothes on and leave."
Oh my god.
And I got my clothes on, and she just berated me the entire time, and I was like, "Super sweet, deuces," and I left, right? And then the next day, she texted me, was like, "Why'd you leave last night? Why didn't you stay over?" And I was like, "Listen, dumpling, like it's all fun and games until like I'm not gonna fucking
bleed for you.
or fucking make you. I'm not gonna close.
But I won't do that.
I'm not gonna close fist hit you in the face. That's ridiculous. So my question is like, where's what I mean? Like what like.
But last week we mentioned swingers convention. Tara got a little taste of working at the swingers convention.
Oh yes, I got to bartend for one of the events that they had. They set up a
Furniture. That's how it was described.
yes. They set up a dungeon in the one of the business meeting rooms of the AC hotel, and on the BEO they said that there was going to be furniture, and of course furniture is a few
sex swings and
few crosses and this huge like seriously giant like net. Like it was like on a tripod, and like in the middle was just like this like net, and the person is just completely like entrapped in this net, and then you can fuck them or whatever because it's a net and it has holes. So that was probably
Like
one of the.
you're a fly caught in their spider web.
Yeah, pretty much.
Insect role play.
Ooh, that leads to the ovipositor dildo. Actually, have we talked about this?
That's where we got the name of this
show?
podcast.
Yeah. We did. Yeah, this will be a nice little segue.
Yeah, what is this? The ovipositor dildo?
So there is a sex toy called the ovipositor dildo, and it is based upon the face hugger creature in the movie Aliens in the franchise that jumps on your face and puts something down your throat. Now, the thing it puts down your throat is called an ovipositor, and it's something that a mosquito also has. So this dude made a giant dildo of it about the size of my arm that shoots gelatin balls in people that explodes. And I read this Vice magazine article with him where he's like mass producing them in different colors. And the dude is really fucking smart. And in the middle of the interview, they're like, well, where did you get the idea to come up with this sort of stuff? And he's like, well, you know, I figured that I needed to make a lot of money. And no matter whether the economy is doing well or not, like people always spend money on food, sex, and death. So first I was a chef for a long time and that didn't work out. Now I'm doing sex. This seems to be fine. But, you know, if not, then I'm going to move on to death.
I feel like that should have been like in our first podcast. But
whatever.
It was a
for the
slow
true
build.
believers.
It was a tease.
yeah, so Tara you were saying about that you bartended the swinger a couple of events for the swinger festival that was down here in New Orleans. Did you get involved in any way? You have a boyfriend, and that is not a question for you to answer.
Not in the swing. I mean, we both bartended for this event, so it was definitely a fun couples thing to do together, where we got to.
Her outfit was real cute. Aw, it was fun. It was fun watching the couples dress up.
Did you guys share?
I made him wear the collar.
Did you guys share others?
No. We're monogamous in the bedroom as well as in not the bedroom.
Well, the definition of monogamous
would not be swinging.
Right.
So
But what does not in the bedroom mean?
As in like
they call
date.
each other girlfriend and boyfriend.
Yeah.
And do
Yeah,
bad
like-
stuff. What do you mean?
Yeah. Jay was just.
Oh,
it
no,
was just
she's
a
no.
backwards take.
makes sense.
But like also like you like trailed off. You were like we're monogamous in the bedroom and also not in the bedroom. And I was like,
I was being coy.
I was like, wait, is there a thing I don't even know
It's a little
about? Like,
foreboding.
you know,
It was.
like.
It's all right.
So there was this couple sitting at my bar, and as soon as they walked in, it was just like, oh, you guys are absolutely from the Swingers Festival, right? And the dude, they were from Montreal, didn't speak a whole lot of English, mostly French, and the dude was he looked like a French Bruce Willis, and his lady was like probably like 35, but like stunning and not wearing the amount of clothes that you would expect of someone who was in public. You know what I mean?
It's also August in New Orleans.
No, but this was even for August in New Orleans. It was just like, whatever, right? So they ended up hanging out all night, and then the guy was like, oh, what are you doing afterwards? Like, we'd love to hang out with you. What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I don't know. So whatever. So I was like, oh, what are you guys? They text me, and I was like, well, what are you guys up to? And they were like, well, we're having drinks, and why don't you come back and hang out at our hotel or whatever? And I was like, nah, like.
That's better
whatever.
than the way that I get hit on
And
by
then-
swingers, for sure.
Well, then they're like, oh, we're on Lower Decatur. Where are you? And I was like, oh, I'm at Molly's. So they come over, and
this is after you exchanged numbers with them, right?
yeah,
Like,
and then they came and met me, and they were
Yeah.
like, and I was like, yeah, cool, whatever. I'll give it a shot, see what the deal is, because he would just leave and be like, hey, you fucking like to
Have
his
fun with
to
my
his-
wife.
it's like a
right,
cuckolding
exactly.
kind of thing.
Like in Harold
I don't
and
know,
Kumar.
but then I don't remember that part of Harold and Kumar. But so
Yeah,
she's
that
like
happened.
fucking. She
Chris
like
Maloney.
grabs my hands, put it on her fucking boobs and whatever, and then and she's like, why don't you just come back with me to our hotel? And I was just like, well, what's the deal? And she goes, he just wants to stand in the corner and watch and jerk off. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to like. That's like a weird.
That's like best case scenario. That's like
yeah, but it was just. I was also kind of like.
you possible.
It was also kind of like it just seemed
Yeah, she
like
wasn't that hot.
no. It just seemed like a fucking weird. It.
I feel like I see porn pop up like that all the time.
I'd be so
Absolutely.
into that.
Yeah, but like also it just for whatever reason like it just didn't feel right, and I was like, you know what? But in that situation, it just didn't fucking feel right, and I was like, nah, I'm not. I don't want to do that, you know. Not that I wouldn't ever, but I was just. It just
wasn't the
fucking,
right time.
for whatever reason, it just didn't.
I think that would be
fucking-
voyeurism for those.
like, and I'm not. Yeah, like fucking. Like I'm not.
Don't know.
That's the fetish. is
opposed to
voyeurism.
it, but I just did. It just didn't fucking feel right. You know what I mean?
Is there a distinction between a fetish and a kink?
I mean, I don't think this is right, but in my head, a fetish is usually something that maybe is more non-sexual, where a kink is already something sexual.
What do you mean?
Like a foot fetish, because feet aren't really sexual.
They're not typically
Or-
sexualized.
Right.
Right, but it's
Where a kink
Or-
would be like something like getting, like, you know,
Spanked?
or like fucked in the ass or whatever, or like, you know, like fingered or
So-
even,
So,
or
like-
whatever, like
so
Like,
like a
furries would be a fetish.
so it's so
Or like
you're
whipped
saying,
or-
you're saying that a fetish is something
I'm not.
inherently.
It's just my opinion.
No, yeah. I think what Tara said is like a great way to put it. I don't, you know, not that it's right or wrong, but a fetish is something that inherently isn't sexual, that you associate with being sexual, versus a kink is something that is like is a part of sex that is
Like pissing
think
would
so.
be a
Right.
fetish.
right. That's inherently
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
sexual thing,
Yeah.
but it versus like I don't know, fucking like a kink would be like slapping tits or something, you know, versus is
Yeah, totally.
is that kind of what you were saying or no? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Food, sex, and death.